Protests over China's COVID controls spread across the country. Huge protests have spread in China against the strict COVID controls, fueled by anger over the death of 10 people in an apartment fire. Also this lunchtime, diphtheria cases up among asylum seekers after disease linked to a Manston death. Officials are expected to confirm that the number of cases of the highly contagious disease has risen from 39 to about 50. And encouraging self-harm to be criminalised online safety bill. The change has been influenced by the case of Molly Russell, a teenager who took her own life after viewing online content linked to self-harm and suicide. And Matt Hancock has reached the I'm 70 final as 8th contender eliminated.
This is STV Lunchtime News with Stephen Woolridge.
Good afternoon. Protests against China's strict COVID controls spread to Shanghai and other cities after complaints they might have worsened the death toll in an apartment fire. Shanghai police used pepper spray against about 300 protesters on Saturday night, according to a witness, while demonstrations appear to be continuing on Sunday. They gathered on Saturday night to mourn the deaths of at least 10 people in an apartment fire last week in Urumqi and Zhejiang region in the northwest. Videos posted on social media that said they were filmed in Nanjing in the east, Guangzhou in the south, and at least 5 other cities showed protesters tussling with police in white protective suits or dismantling barricades used to seal off neighbourhoods. Witnesses said a protest occurred in Urumqi, but details of other videos have not been confirmed. President Xi Jinping's government faces mounting anger at its zero COVID policy that has shut down areas throughout China in an attempt to isolate every case at a time, when other governments are in control and trying to live with the virus. That has kept China's infection rate lower than the United States and other countries. But the ruling Communist Party faces growing complaints about the economic and human cost that businesses close and families are isolated for weeks with limited access to food and medicine. Some protesters were shown shouting for Xi to step down or the ruling party to give up power. Party leaders promised last month to make restrictions less disruptive by easing quarantine and other rules, but said they were sticking to zero COVID. Meanwhile, an upsurge in infections that pushed daily cases above 30,000 for the first time has led authorities to impose restrictions residents complain exceed what is allowed by the national government. Fire deaths in Urumqi triggered the outpouring of anger questions online about whether firefighters who needed 3 hours to extinguish the blaze or victims trying to escape might have been obstructed by locked doors or other controls. Authorities denied that it became a focal point of public about anti-disease restrictions, party propaganda and censorship. In Shanghai, protesters gathered at Middle Urumqi Road at midnight with flowers, candles and signs reading Urumqi November 24th, those who died rest in peace, according to the participant who would give only his family name Zaho. Zaho said one of his friends was beaten by police and 2 were pepper sprayed. He said police stomped on his feet as he tried to stop them from taking his friend away. He lost his shoes and left barefoot. According to Zaho, protesters yelled slogans including Xi Jinping, step down, Communist Party, step down, unlock Xinjiang, unlock China, do not want PCR tests, want freedom, and press freedom. Around 100 police stood in line to prevent protesters from gathering or leaving, Zaho said. He said buses with more police arrived later. Another protester, who gave only his family name Zhu, said there was a larger crowd of thousands of demonstrators, but police stood in the road and let them pass on the sidewalk. People posted videos and accounts on Chinese and foreign social media showing protests in Shanghai, Nanjing, Chengdu and Chongqing in the southwest of Urumqi and Korla in Xinjiang. The video said it was shot in Urumqi showed protesters chanting "Remove the Communist Party, remove Xi Jinping." Protests in Xinjiang are especially risky following a security crackdown against Uyghurs and other mostly Muslim ethnic minorities that has included mass detentions. Most protesters in the videos were members of China's dominant Han ethnic group. A Uyghur woman in Urumqi said Uyghurs were too scared to take to the streets. Han Chinese people know they will not be punished if they speak against the lockdown, said the woman, who asked not to be identified by name for fear of retaliation. Uyghurs are different. If we dare say such thing, we will be taken to prison or to the camps. Posts on Chinese social media were quickly deleted, which Beijing often does to suppress criticism it worried might serve as a rallying point for opposition to one-party rule. Anger boiled over earlier after Urumqi city officials appeared to blame the death from Thursday night fire on the apartment tower's residents. Next is lunchtime. Diphtheria cases are rising among asylum seekers after disease has been linked to the migrant's death at Manston. Diphtheria cases among asylum seekers in the UK have risen, as the Home Office said the death of a man held at Manston Processing Centre may have been from an infection of the bacteria. Officials are expected to confirm on Monday that the number of infections has risen to about 50, amid concerns about the spread of the disease as migrants were moved from the Kent facility to hotels around the country. The government said on Saturday that a PCR test on the man who died after being held, possibly unlawfully, at the centre for a week indicates that diphtheria may have been the cause of the illness. Initial tests at a hospital near the centre, where Home Secretary Suella Braverman has faced criticism about overcrowding and outbreaks of disease, had been negative. Public health officials have raised concern about the spread of the highly contagious disease as people were moved from the facility to hotels. According to the Sunday Times, Jim McManus, president of the Association of Directors of Public Health, said the situation could and should have been prevented, and it is entirely arguable that the lack of information, coordination and engagement from the Home Office has made the situation far worse than it could have been. It has created additional and preventable burdens on local health systems and has put both asylum seekers and potentially hotel workers at avoidable and preventable risk. We want to work constructively and effectively as directors of public health with the government for the good of everybody. We offered the Home Office collaboration with our efforts. We rebuffed. The man died in hospital on November 19th. He is believed to have entered the UK on a small boat 7 days earlier. As of November 10th, the UK Health Security Agency had identified 39 cases of diphtheria cases in asylum seekers in England in 2022. But the PA News Agency has been told that an update taking into account the number of cases up until Friday will put the figure at about 50. Officials could not rule out the number of cases suspected by medics at being higher. A government spokeswoman said, "Our thoughts remain with the family of the man who has died and all those affected by this loss." Initial test results processed by a local hospital for an infectious disease were negative, but a follow-up PCR test was positive, indicating that diphtheria may have been the cause of the illness. The coroner will conclude in due course. We take the safety and welfare of those in our care extremely seriously and are taking all the necessary steps following these results. Diphtheria vaccinations will be offered to any new arrivals at Manston the spokeswoman said, though the facility is understood to be currently empty. A post-mortem examination and coroner's investigation are ongoing. Now, the online safety bill is to be updated to criminalise the encouragement of self-harm, the government has said. Culture Secretary Michelle Donnellan said the update would create a new offence that would target communications that encourage someone to physically harm themselves, making it illegal to do so, and bringing it in line with the communications that encourage suicide, which are already illegal. The Department for Digital Culture, Media and Sport said the changes to the online safety bill had been influenced by the case of Molly Russell, the 14-year-old who ended her own life in November 2017 after viewing social media content linked to depression, self-harm and suicide. I am determined that the abhorrent trolls encouraging the young and vulnerable to self-harm are brought to justice, Ms. Donnellan said. So I'm strengthening our online safety laws to make sure these vile acts are stamped out and the perpetrators face jail time. Social media firms can no longer remain silenced by bystanders either, as they have faced fines for allowing this abusive and destructive behaviour to continue on their platforms under our laws. The online safety bill is due to return to Parliament early in December after a number of delays and after a latest round of updates. The self-harm measure would be included in amendments to the bill, but Ms. Donnellan's department could not when they could be tabled. Early this week, the government announced other new offences being added to the bill that would crack down on sharing intimate images without consent. With the introduction of updates around encouraging self-harm, social media platforms will be required to remove such content, and any person found to have sent such communications will face prosecution. The government said more details around the maximum penalty for the offence will be published in due course. Deputy Prime Minister and Justice Secretary Dominic Raab said lives and families have been devastated by those who encourage vulnerable internet users to self-harm. Changes will ensure the full force of the law applies to those callous and reckless individuals who try to manipulate the vulnerable online in this way. Other news. 2 teenagers have died after being stabbed a mile apart from each other on the same afternoon, police have said. The Metropolitan Police were called out about 5 p.m. on Saturday to reports that people had been injured at both locations in Sewell Road, Abbey Wood and Timothy Avenue in Thamesmead, South East London. A British father who was held in Iraq over alleged unpaid debt has told the dreadful conditions he endured in prison when he saw rats as big as cats. Brian Glendinning, 43, said he had pressed the pause button on his life 2 months in jail, where getting through the days were just survival. And the woman who will support the Queen Consort as she carries out her key official and state duties have been announced by Buckingham Palace today. Camilla 75 is to have 6 Queen's companions, not traditional ladies in waiting, in addition to her private secretary and deputy private secretary, Buckingham Palace said. They are Camilla's trusted friends Sarah Troughton, Jane von Westenholz and Fiona, the Marchioness of Lansdowne. And finally, Matt Hancock has secured a place in the I'm a Celebrity Get Me Out of Here final after Mike Tindall became the 8th contestant to be eliminated. The former England rugby player, 44, missed out on the place in Sunday's finale to the former Health Secretary, 44, Jill Scott and Owen Warner, who will vie to be crowned the winner of the ITV reality show. After leaving the celebrity camp, Tindall was greeted by his wife, the Princess Royal's daughter, Zara Tindall. He told hosts Ant McPartlin and Declan Donnelly, "I'm pretty comfortable with it. It has been an amazing journey. I think we've been very lucky with everyone that's been in there and how the camp has worked together. Being in a team for a long period of my life, I didn't expect it to work as well as it did." Early in Saturday's episode, Tyndall had shared his thoughts on Matt Hancock's position in the competition, saying Matt clearly wants to win. Speaking in the Bush Telegraph, Tyndall said, Matt's making sure his t-shirt and his phone numbers are on the display at all times. Matt clearly wants to win. I'm taking great pleasure in turning this around every time he leaves camp. Once a politician, always a politician. Always polling for votes. During the show, hosts Ant McPartland and Deck mocked Hancock's attempt to win as many public votes as possible, with Deck saying Matt Hancock showed off his new morning routine, shower, shave and show everyone the number on the back of his gillet. Celebrities took part in the much-loved Cyclone Challenge, which saw them fight their way up a slippery, obstacle-ridden slope while trying to win stars for camp for one last time. Hancock appeared delighted by the prospect of taking part, telling his campmates, I never thought I'd make it to the Cyclone. It's going to be an absolutely brilliant time. I can't wait. Hollyoaks actor Warner, 23, said, I'm just absolutely buzzing. Can't believe I'm here. Can't believe I'm doing this. I'm speechless. I'm just literally speechless. The former England footballer Scott, 35, added, to get to the opportunity to do this, it's like the icing on the cake. And that is it this lunchtime. Wish I could do that. The news where you are follows the national weather, and then Tom Bradby will be back later on with the news at 10:15. But from everyone here this lunchtime, have a wonderful afternoon. Bye bye.